I really think we need to like normalize talking about it, because then we won't lose more people. You know, I got to hear about Bob's busted knee at the warehouse. Well, why can't I say, hey, I'm feeling really down and, you know, need a friend? When I started flowing 2 years ago, I went from the worst downward spiral I was in to balance. And then the next year, my second year, it was just bam. Flowing is the one time where the million thoughts a second stop. It's like my active meditation. It's just me and the fire, and that's why I love doing it so much. The second Kindle is when I came out as Elizabeth and started wearing like cool outfits. And the people that I'd already worked with at the first one were like, okay, cool, Liz, yeah, be me, you know, and it was exhilarating. Finally, peace, you know, I can calm down. It was actually just a mental relief to be accepted as I was.
So, Elizabeth, you are the owner and proprietor of Fire Raven Entertainment, a performance-based company that focuses on fire and flow arts. You are also a huge advocate for mental health awareness in the flow arts community, and you are also a third-year jester. Thank you so much for coming out here, and welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. So I want to start in reverse order. Can you actually tell me what the role of a jester is nowadays?
Well, so I'm not really like a clown, because I don't really like all the get up and I don't do the balloon owls and stuff, but I'm really good at connecting with people, and I'm really good at making people laugh and just acting silly. So I think that's more me than being a clown, you know.
So I know, like, when, at least for me, and I think, you know, like pop culture, when someone thinks of a jester, they think of like the hats and the bells, and they dance in the king's or queen's courts. How does that translate to modern day?
Well, I actually do have this like really big, nice like rainbow hat, and then like I'll put on like I have like a skeleton onesie that just makes me look silly, you know. And then I'll go out with like my fans, you know, because it really gets attention, you know. And just like I engage people on purpose to like make them notice me.
Okay, so like where's like a venue that you practice being a jester? Is it at festivals? Is it at events?
My whole life. I was a class clown. I got the sharpest wit. I'll come up with a joke on a second. I'm goofy, you know. I just like doing silly things, you know.
You say like doing silly things, but like what about it appeals to you? Is it how you're able to make people feel? Is it how you
like
feel?
Making people feel good and laugh, because laughter is the best medicine, you know. And if you're down and you're feeling bad, and I might not tell you a joke, but I might do something silly, you know, and if I can pick you up just a little bit, I did my job.
I think that's super rewarding, because, you know,
It is very...
Yeah, when I think about the things that I do and the impact that I have on the world, something that I always try to, you know, strive for is like, how am I impacting other people, and how am I impacting communities? Am I making things better with my presence and efforts? And I think one of the easiest ways to do that is to make people feel good, make them feel appreciated and welcome, and, you know, make them laugh.
Yeah, so as a Scorpio, like, growing up is difficult because we're kind of chaotic, and
yeah,
I didn't really realize like how important it was to make connections with people, and realizing that I was down all the time for my issues, and every once in a while someone would make me laugh and stuff. And like about when I was 30, Scorpios get their emotional maturity, and that's when I realized like there's more than life than just me. I can help some other people, you know. And so getting over that self-centeredness really just opened my mind to other people need help, you know.
So I'm probably going to get crucified by our own community, but I know nothing about the star signs. Can you tell me about the emotional journey of a Scorpio and how that relates to you?
We get a bad rap.
Sure.
You know, like the horoscope thing in the Facebook, you know, what's your sign? Are you a horse or a, you know, bird? Or in Scorpios, it's always like the devil or a vampire, you know. We're very defiant, very overly self-assured, maybe a little cocky, you know. We won't listen. If we think you're saying something we don't want to hear, it's blank. We try to control the situation. It's just about a barrier that you can't get in because we never show you our true face. unless
Okay.
we make a real connection.
Got it.
And then once we take our scorpion face off, and then you see the real person underneath, and that's when we can help you.
Okay.
You know, we don't like fake people.
Okay. So it's really just high emotional barriers, but once a very strong connection is forged, then it's able to reach behind the mask.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Then we take the claws and the tail off, and we're just like, hey, you know, let's connect. How can I help you?
Okay.
Yeah, I think you're funny, or yeah.
So you mentioned like I guess a lifelong journey of, you know, wanting to help people, wanting to make them feel good and laugh. Can you recall any like specific moments where you felt that?
Yes, actually, very recently, I had a very dear friend that had an extremely tragic thing happen. And he was honest with me because we've had that connection. And, you know, he told me he was feeling suicidal, you know, and very depressed. And, like, I was in the middle of something on the other cross town, and I'm like, I'll be there in 20 minutes.
Sure. Yeah.
You know, because I've felt that way. And I've tried to hurt myself. And I just am not going to lose another friend, period. You know, I'm going to be there for anybody like that needs that. Because most people don't understand. You know, like 95% of people have no clue. They're just like, oh, you're sad and you're depressed, you'll get over it. It's like, no. You know, I'm wounded. My heart hurts.
I mean, it's always such a hard thing to see because like I feel like the symptoms and the signs are almost invisible unless you're really looking for it. But even then, it's so hard to kind of peer behind a mask, like you were saying earlier. This isn't just a Scorpio thing, but just a mask that people put on.
An emotional barrier, yes.
Yeah, it's so difficult. I know like one of the bigger profile ones in, I don't know, the past decade was Robin Williams. Life from the outside looking in looked perfect. He had everything that someone would want in life, and yet, you know, he was still suffering this great tragedy, so it's hard.
People like that and myself, when we get that bad, we don't want to burden somebody because we think it's too much for them.
Sure.
Or we think nobody will understand. But usually what it is, it's catastrophizing and a downward spiral of despair. And
Okay.
somebody needs to stop that spiral, you know. And it's extremely hard to reach out because the most thing is we don't want to burden you because it's a lot to deal with, you know, especially for people that never have that kind of feeling.
Yeah.
And so I really think we need to like normalize talking about it because then we won't lose more people. You know, I got to hear about Bob's busted knee at the warehouse. Well, why can't I say, hey, I'm feeling really down and, you know, need a friend, you know?
So let's break this down a little bit. Let's look at it from a couple perspectives. If someone is going through these suicidal experiences and feelings and emotions, what are some of the signs that they can look for and some of the steps that they can take to seek help, to identify the situation?
Withdrawn, not talking to people, not texting or calling like you used to. Quiet all the time. Sitting and looking like you're just kind of spacing out. That's when we're steamrolling the bad. You know, not eating right, not taking good hygiene serious, you know. Those are pretty much the major signs, but then there's like littler signs, which are really poor jokes that are dark, you know, like, oh, I'll probably be better without me. So a lot of people think that's just a dark joke. No, that's somebody crying
cry for help.
That's a cry for help. Yeah. People that are really down on themselves are, you know, subtly crying for help.
And then on the other side of that, so let's say I am witnessing these signs in another person. What are some of the things that I can do as a friend, as a resource to kind of help to kind of identify these situations? Because you can't do the work for them, but you can make it as easy for them as possible.
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I actually have a very good answer for you on that. So text them, preferably call them. Voice to voice breaks a barrier that's not just distance, it's more of an actual connection when you hear their voice. And you ask them, hey, I miss you. I love you. I'm worried about you. Let's hang out.
Yeah.
We can sit there and talk about it, you know. You can lean on my shoulder to cry. You can just vent and I'll listen. Or we can just sit there and not talk about it and just enjoy each other's company. And nobody ever thinks of that last one. Because sometimes you just want someone to be there and not talk about it and just have a presence, you know. And that's really big.
It's actually funny. I love Nikki, my girlfriend, in so many ways, but honestly, one of my favorites is just being alone in the same room together, but not having to interact.
Yeah.
Because it's nice to have that presence
It
nearby,
is,
but I don't
exactly.
want the responsibility is not the word. I don't want to have to, you know, put all the energy in forth to have a conversation, to make a good interaction. I just kind of want to be.
That's
Yeah.
actually very normal. My wife and I, Stephanie, like she'll be playing Xbox, you know, and I'll just be like sitting next to her on the couch,
Yeah,
playing on my
that's nice.
phone, and we're together. I mean, that's all that matters, you know, just being near somebody, and then you can feel their energy, you know, and that combined energy balances everybody out, you know. If my friend is down and I'm vibrating really high at a frequency, I can give him some of that. 'Cause I'm a half Indian. I'm from Alaska. I'm native. And so I'm like kind of like basically a healer or shaman. Like I vibrate at high frequencies. Animals just come up and love me. Strangers come up and tell me their entire life story, you know. I give people a hug and they're like, I feel good. Like, that's something I recently developed about myself when I was about 30. Like, so Scorpios have 3 phases. There's wrath, vengeance, and their emotional maturity. And that's usually around 30.
Okay.
Yeah. And so when I hit that and started understanding that, like, there's difference between people besides, you know, this or, you know, that, there's frequencies. And a lot of people are, like, kind of unsure about that. But I tell you, like, some people, like the guys that just have super high energy, or like me, you know, dogs love you, people love you. That's because you're vibrating really high. And if you can balance somebody down, then you're kind of building them up also. Mm-hmm. And so the goal is to teach everybody that love is everything. And that we are all connected, one collective consciousness. And we got to take care of each other.
Is there a way to balance the energies when you come into a situation like that? Let's say you have a friend who's down and you yourself are a naturally high energy person. I imagine if there's too large a gap between it, they kind of repel each other. It's very hard. Someone might feel oppressed by the amount of energy coming their way.
It can happen.
Do you have to kind of meet them a little bit more in the middle and kind of subdue yourself a little bit?
It depends on the person. Like, a lot of people don't understand their frequencies and stuff, and they just think they're sad. You know, hugs.
Sure.
Hugs are a great way to transfer your energy. You just got to picture your inner chi, you know, it's coming out a little bit, about this far. And then when you hug them, your spirit chi is going into them. Holding hands, physical
touch.
Physical contact, cuddling, you know, like, I don't know, that's not for everybody, but like,
yeah,
you know, hugs are really good. Holding hands are good. I will show people Tai Chi and like show them just the very basics to get that negative out and the positive in.
So kind of taking that as a segue, what do you think is the intersection between mental illness, mental health awareness, and the flow arts community?
You know, mental health awareness is starting to become a thing in the flow community because a lot of people in the flow community are kind of neurodivergent, and I'm not trying to label anybody, but like, you know, like I have autism and schizophrenia, and so like I can kind of tell when somebody else is neurodivergent because
Sure.
they talk like I do or act like I do. And that kind of just makes like this instant connection, you know, when you have somebody similar to you. And when I first started flowing, I was at the worst point in my life. I just tried to commit suicide, and I met some people that like just showed me really cool stuff with fire and encouraged me to do it. And when I started flowing 2 years ago, I went from the worst downward spiral I was in to balance. And then the next year, my second year, it was just bam. You know, it's like,
Sure.
because of my mental problems and the insomnia, I don't sleep. Even when I'm dreaming, I'm awake. I can sleep during surgery, which is basically impossible
Wild.
because you're
Yeah.
not asleep, you're sedated.
Yeah.
And so, flowing is the one time where the million thoughts a second stop.
Okay.
It's like my active meditation. It's just me and the fire, and that's why I love doing it so much. And it's like literally therapy for me, And so I try to encourage other people to flow because it's fun, it's relaxing, it grounds you. You're standing on the ground, you got the air, you got the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very elemental, natural thing.
I think there's two ways to think of like the flow parts of the flow arts. One is, objects are flowing through space. There's a visual component to it, but there's also the emotional part. Like you go into a flow state.
Exactly.
This is the only thing that you're focusing on, the present moment right now, and you can just kind of let all of the other thoughts drift away.
Yep, exactly. That's what I say. It's just me and the fire.
Yeah.
And then other people flow to relax also, but they do it in a different way. Some people's brains work like patterns and geometry and stuff. So a lot of people will like try to make like little perfect shapes and stuff. And to them, that gives them peace because it stops their mind from going square, circle, and then they get to do what they're trying to do.
So you touched upon it briefly in your explanation, but can you elaborate more what it's like to, spin fire and go through the flow and the emotions? What is that like for you in more detail?
At first I was like really scared, And I had like LED pods, and I was hitting myself all the time because, I just started out and it was my birthday and I'd been spinning like maybe 3 months. And I told my friend, he came over. I was like, one of these days I'll be good enough to spin fire. And he just gave them to me, like, go do it. And then that first time I spun fire, I was like, this is my jam, And it's just something I don't want to let go of because it just makes me feel so good, And I've noticed how good it makes other people feel. Like my wife got some fans recently, and now she's all smiles, And I think just flowing is the highest form of art, because, you can do it by yourself, but like, you have a couple of people watching you, they get to see the real you. They get to see the artist in you. They get to see like, wow, how your brain works, how you're creative. And that's awesome. That's, there's many facets of flowing, but the fact that people can do it differently but still get the end result of happiness and community.
Yes.
When I was very new, I was going to quit because like I kind of fell into the crowd of like really good flow artists just by happenstance, you know. And so like I'm new and I'm seeing like the most amazing things ever. And I just like wanted to take my toy and throw them in the river. I was like, I don't need these. But then those extremely high level people, I got to know them and they just kept encouraging me, go do it, Liz, go do it, go do it. I'm like, I can't do this. Yeah, you can. And like that community bonding of care and love, just wanting me to do art and express myself, of like, this is, a great community. And like, I want to give back,
I think you hit the nail on the head. Like the community aspect of flow arts is massive.
Yeah.
So I first joined the flow arts community in about December of 2021. I didn't really know anyone. I literally just showed up at Gasworks Park. I saw people spinning fire. I'm like, that looks cool. Let's go check that out. And then I started talking to people, and they're some of the most compassionate, empathetic, and encouraging people I've ever met. I have a martial arts background, so I know how to move things through air. But I had never done any of the props that they had, like a poi or, I don't know, levy wand or dragon staff or something like that. Just very exotic props, right? So, they kind of walked me through the ropes and they taught me from the ground up, like, hey, this is how you do this. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. And they were just so patient with me as I was going through this learning experience with them.
So you do flow now?
I do, yes.
What's your favorite prop?
So I like the static props so far. When I say static, I mean things that don't have flex in it. So
like
swords.
fans.
Fans. Swords, staffs, fans, stuff like that. Not to say I don't like more fluid props like poi, so ball on a string, or levy wand, which I still think is magic.
I brought one.
I just gravitate towards the more static ones because that was what my background was in, weapons and martial arts, and I'd mess around with sticks as a kid all the time. I have probably 10,000 hours of swinging a stick.
Somebody gave me a contact staff for like, they were moving, it was like dirt cheap, but I bought it. And then like I went to go spin it the first time at Jaja, the local place.
Yeah.
And also, decades of martial art. So I get that stab and I'm just like,
yeah.
And everyone's like looking at me funny because it's not like flow, but
sure,
it's flashy. And like if you can do it without messing up, you got to tuck to transfer to tuck, and then throw it out long way. Probably exactly what. Yeah, and then like I blew people's mind that like I've been spinning staffs forever, and I'm like, showed you something.
It's so funny because, like you said, it's such a distinct style, and other people who have a martial arts background can pin that from a mile. They're like, wait a second, hold on. You didn't come from just waving this around because it's pretty. That's amazing. What was one of the first props that you picked up?
Poi.
It was poi. Okay.
Oh, yeah. I did poi for almost 2 years, and then I just started getting into short staffs, long staff, and fans. I'm still very new at fans and levy one, but I'm pretty good with that long staff. And the short sticks, I'm getting pretty good at those too. I was a drummer as a kid, right? So everyone can finger twirl, right?
Yep.
It's just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Now, to finger twirl backwards, you have to break your mind because it's 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
I didn't think about that.
So I will go regular spin out,
Yeah.
and then anti-spin back, and it just blows people's mind.
Okay.
I tried to show a friend, the guy that actually talked me into getting staff. I was like, hey, check this out. He's like, don't do that ever again. He's like, I don't want to see that anymore.
I mean, you're right. Muscle memory is so strong.
I tried to show him too, and he's just finger cramping, so I'm not doing it.
Yeah, your brain just breaks until you have to train it.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
It took a lot to spin backwards. I was like watching, Motley Crue and Tommy Lee just spinning sticks. I'm like, because I was a drummer. I'm like, that's the jam.
Okay. So let's go back to the beginning. What was your experience like learning poi?
At first it was almost hopeless, because I was just so bad at control, like getting my wheel planes or my wall planes. And then one day I was just like, you know what? I seen some moves that I like, and I want to learn how to do them. And so I drilled my planes daily, like an hour a day, and like old-fashioned style, like
against a wall.
If this is the wall, I'd start like a foot out, and then I would spin until I'm not hitting me or not hitting the wall, and then just half a step in, go till you're not hitting you or the wall, half a step in, not hitting you or the wall. So now I can get a 4-inch head and a 5-inch gap. It's just like fluid.
Okay.
And like that was my thing. I like just really wanted to get good planes, you know? And now, like, even though I'm still really new, I've only been doing it 2 years, and like all my friends have been doing it 15, 20, 12 years, you know? And then I'll go out there and show them, like, and they're like, ooh, like, yeah, that took practice.
I mean, you put the time in. So for context, I have a winter guard background, which is essentially color guard, flags, swords, sabers. For those unaware,
Wushu.
For those unaware, it's the halftime show for swords, flags.
Yeah,
take that, put it inside, becomes winter guard.
That is flow. That's perfect. That is absolutely flow.
So with my winter guard backgrounds, we would drill planes all the time. So I'd take my rifle, I would do drop spins, and I'd stand right next to a wall, and you just hope you don't hit the wall because it's bouncing right back at your face. And you just get good at this by putting in hours and hours and hours of time.
Repetitive action is how you become master.
Yeah. It's
I have probably maybe 5,000 hours drilling planes, like a couple hours every
that
day.
Is so
every
many.
day for like a year. Just planes, because the sexiest thing is when you're in front planes and then you can do one back and then one front and one back. It looks phenomenal.
it's astounding how much time someone has to put in to make it look effortless.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of the moves I do are like where the poi will be like head level because I will stack those wall planes up high.
Oh, okay.
And then like do a little cap up here and a cap up here. So like, there was a lot of hitting myself in the face at the beginning. And so we always tell new people though, like if they're hitting themselves in the head, then their hands are too high. Your hands should be down by your hips when you first start.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the poi should be from here to just under the armpit. So that if it's down here, it's never going to hit you in the face.
Okay, so the length of poi is really dependent on the person's body features, how long their arms are.
Yes, and even that's a variable, but the general rule is you want, like, if you're holding the handle, it should be like an inch or two above your armpit.
Okay.
Because that way you'll be able to clear inside here.
Oh, I didn't even think about that, but that makes so much sense.
It's not muscle memory, it's just body aware, spatial awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And I did taekwondo for like 12 or 7 years, and I do a lot of air bending. So like, I'm really good at making sure my hands are not in the right place, And actually, when I met a bunch of spinners, they was at a camping party, and truck full of people just jump out and start spitting fire, And I was like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah.
I was just standing by the campfire, just having fun, like pushing the smoke around, making like little clouds and stuff. And like one of the other guys was like tapping his reins, like, give him some poi. So he knew that that was going to be my jam. So
okay.
Yeah. So that day I picked up those poi. I'm like, this is my thing. I'm gonna go buy some. And yeah, the martial arts and the airbending, like everybody says it gave me like a big leg up compared to like new people that start because I already understood hand pathing. Mm-hmm. And don't worry about where the poi is. Worry about where your hands are so you're not going to get tangled.
That makes sense because the poi are attached to your hands. Yes, so if your hands are clear, the poi
is just your second elbow.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that, but that makes perfect sense too.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a really, really interesting reframe. That'll probably help me quite a bit.
Yeah, I could show you something like 5 minutes of just like basic stuff that would greatly increase your style, probably.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. And that's one of the other things I want to do when my business is teach lessons.
I was actually about to say. So you also teach. How's that experience been for you?
I've just opened my business, so I sold my house. I quit my job of 25 years in the steel mill because it's too much for me mentally now in Portland. I've had a couple breakdowns, a couple suicide attempts, and I just got to get out of here. And I have a cousin that lives in Hawaii. We have family down there. And he said one time, he's like, oh, just come live here. I got a couple acres. You can live rent free. And I'm like, on Facebook, I'm like, yeah, sure, whatever, don't tease me. He's like, no, I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
And I thought about it for maybe 2 months. I was like, I'm selling my house, So I sold the house. I quit my job of 25 years. And I was thinking about, like, well, what am I going to do when I get there? I got to have something, And so I just started buying props. I made wholesale accounts with, like, the biggest companies like Flow Toys and Pyroterra and TF Chains. And so I just bought all this merchandise and base materials. I buy the best Kevlar in the world. You cannot buy better Kevlar. I get direct from the factory. You can buy the same Kevlar. You cannot buy it better, And that's one of my bragging points, because if I wrap your wicks, and I make fans and stuff like that, I'm going to make poi, and like, it's the best. There's no fiberglass weave, and starting this business is like scary and fun because I really want to perform and teach mainly, but like I want to have, I got to have practice material for the students, so I had to have all this extra stuff. And just moving to Hawaii seems like a really nice place to just kind of like set up my shop and stuff. Yeah. I lived there in Honolulu when I was a kid for like a month and a half, and I can't remember the exact wording, but there's a phrase down there that once you come to the islands and leave, she keeps calling you back. And
Sure.
it's absolutely true. I've been thinking about it for 35 years. Like, I need to go back to Hawaii, But yeah, this Fire Raven Entertainment, Fire, obviously, but Raven is my clan, my native clan. Yeah, so, and it's Alaskan natives are way different than down here natives. We got clans that are over your tribe. Right.
Okay.
So, like in my area, there's 3 main tribes. There's Tlinkits, Haidas, and Tsimshians. Right. But you say your clan first. Like, you can be Raven Clan Tlingit or you can be Raven Clan Tsimshian because it's all dependent on your mother. Right?
Oh, interesting.
It's
Okay.
very matriarchal. Like, technically, if you have a white mom and an Indian dad, you're white.
Yeah, got it.
But I'm happy. I got
Sure.
Indian mom. So, yeah, and the clan is more important than your tribe.
Okay.
So, be like Eagle Clan, Tsimshian or Eagle Clan Haida. Like, my cousins, they're killer whales because their mom was a killer whale, even though we all came from the same family,
So are clans a subset of the tribe, or
No, the base. That's
Okay.
the pinnacle, the
tippy top?
the Paragon,
Okay.
Sierra,
Sure.
the top.
Okay.
And so, then like this clan will have this many members, and it doesn't matter what, tribe and stuff. And it's just spread. It's like a pyramid, kind of
So
like.
you can be part of the Raven clan, but the tribe can be from tribe A, B, or C, but they can
Correct.
all be
Correct.
Raven. Okay.
Yeah. So and when you're talking to somebody, you say your clan before your tribe. So I'm like Raven Clan Tlingit,
Okay,
and
got it.
you're like I'm Raven Clan Haida,
Okay, interesting.
because it's the stronger bond of an entire community instead of just a small group of people.
Okay, so
So that's why it's Fire Raven Entertainment.
that makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, and the story of the Raven is magnificent. Like,
Do tell.
if you got 5 minutes,
We
I'll
got
tell
all the
you.
time in the world.
Oh, okay, so this is great. And so, for a record, the Alaskan natives were the first ones to come across the barrier and get a land bridge, right? So, we settled in Alaska about 12,000 years ago. And after a few thousand years, then they came down here and became Indians.
Okay.
All right, so this story is about 12,000 years old.
Okay.
So the raven was the trickster god and the god of knowledge. He was white, regal white, the most magnificent white bird, lit up the sky almost. And the people were cold and dark because that's how the land was. And they couldn't see. And they cried for the raven, 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 please help, everything's dark, we can't see, it's cold. So the raven knew that the creator, the man in the house, had a box of light.
Okay.
So the raven turns himself into a pine needle
Okay.
and drops into the well. And now when the little girl of the house came out to fetch some water, she got the raven in the water, and when she drank it, she drank the raven as the pine needle. So the next day, she's pregnant, and she gives birth to a baby boy, but it's the raven, right? And so that night, when everybody goes to bed, the raven goes to the box of the light. He opens the chest, he sees the light, he grabs it, right? Flies up the chimney and just throws it into the sky, and it was the stars.
Oh, okay.
And the people are like, thank you, now we can see, but it's still dark and cold. So Raven goes back down the chimney, and the next night, he gets in the light box again, and he sees a bigger light, and he's like, all right, cool. So he grabs that light, and he flies up the chimney, and throws it into the sky, and it was the moon. All right, and the people rejoiced. Thank you, Raven, thank you, now we can see, and now we know what everything is, but it's still very cold. So the raven goes back down the chimney. And the next night, he opens the box, and there's only one light left, but it's a big one. And he's like, this has to be it. Right? So the raven takes this big light, and he starts flying up the chimney, and he gets stuck. He's stuck because the light's so big, and he's using his arms, and his legs and his feet to just climb up and just push this light out, and it gets stuck at the very top, and he uses all his spiritual mana to push it out finally, and he throws it into the sky, and it was the sun, and the people were exalted. Thank you, Raven, thank you. Now we can see. Now it's not dark. Now it's warm. But the Raven used all of his spiritual mana, and he could not shape change anymore. And he was forever dyed black from the suit and the chimney. And this is why the raven is the smartest animal.
Okay.
This is why the raven is black.
Okay.
And this is why the raven can talk. Because the people told the raven, we will never forget you. We will always tell stories about you.
That's amazing. I did not realize
and that's
that.
a 12,000-year-old story.
That's really cool.
And ravens are the smartest animal. Ravens really can talk, not just mimic like parrots.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's why they're black.
Ah,
Yeah.
That's cool. I love that.
Yeah.
You know, looking through various, so it's fascinating looking back at all of these different cultures and the stories that they have about creationism and how things came to be. It seems like a lot of them have a story of some thief who steals from the gods to then deliver to the humans. So the raven story you just mentioned, I think
There's
Prometheus
a reason for that.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh, I was going to say like Prometheus and fire. I think it's Prometheus.
So, yeah. Here's the thing. I am like a history nerd. And if something is interesting to me, I always find the root of where it came from. And that's why I'm pretty good with languages, because I'll find the root of where it came from. So I was kind of brought up Catholic, but like encouraged to explore other religions and faiths and stuff. So it wasn't like go, But I have an extreme interest in the history of religion and how it's changed throughout the times. And basically all the way to Mesopotamian times, the Sumerians worshipped a god named Yah, and the Western Mesopotamians worshipped a god named Wei. Then that story gets taken through Hebrew as they go south and ends up in Egypt. And there's the story I know from like thousands of hours of research. And this is like when they had books in the library. I wasn't Googling this stuff. Like I read like 1,000 books on this. So prophet or not, but Moses had a wizard battle with the Pharaoh. And it was literally called a wizard battle. So the Pharaoh's magicians threw down their staffs, turned to snakes. Moses threw down his staff, turned to snake, and ate the rest of the snakes. And Moses says, this is the only time God is named in the Bible, Moses says there was no greater magic than that of Yahweh.
The name is put together.
Yahweh,
Yeah.
right? So that's the thing. That's the ticket. And as far back as I can go without getting into paranormal possibilities of the Anunnaki, but real stone clay tablets, written about 12,000 years ago from Mesopotamia's Yah and Wei. And the Hebrew kind of took it and put it to one. And when they got to Egypt, there was the battle there.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. Wei was the son of Yah. Right?
Okay.
So, because Summer was the capital, basically. So, Wei was half God, half human. Right? And so when the Hebrews came, they put that together, right? And they just kind of said Yahweh. And they didn't have a son, but they had a prophet. But when they get to Egypt, the Egyptians adapt that story, because the easiest way to convert and control somebody is to adapt the religion and holidays.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's another rabbit hole. So they get to Egypt, right, and they're telling the story of the divine father and the half-god son. That's Ra and Osiris. Like Ra is the top god, and then there's Osiris, who is the half-god, right? And then that story gets taken. When Moses left Egypt, he had 800,000 Jewish slaves with him, but he also took 1.2 million Egyptian slaves with him. Yeah, so you got to read before the King James Bible. And so then they went into Southern Europe and spread that story. The Phoenicians over by Sicily took that story. They were the best sailors. And so they went from Sicily basically to Norway and Sweden and Denmark. And they told the same story of the divine father, the half god. And then you get the story of Odin and Thor, the divine god and the half son. Right?
Interesting.
And then they spread into the Western Middle East. And then you get the story of Osiris and Serapis. Now, Serapis was really weird. He had the depictions of northern Egypt, but he looked like Jesus. And that was their first attempt to convert the religion by doing half and half.
Okay.
And then that story became God and Jesus.
Okay.
The divine father and the half son. And so every religion you go to in the world pretty much has the same story.
It's fascinating.
Like, we can go to South America like 5,000 years before that, and the Aztecs have this divine god, Coatl. And then his son is Quetzalcoatl, who is a half god. And even in my own stories, there's the creator, the man in the house, and the raven, the other god, you know? And yeah, it's kind of a thing that they're kind of all tied together. And in every story of those, starting back with the Mesopotamians, there was a scientist who took the knowledge of, unsure, but like something important, you know, like tools or fire, or wheel, you know, and, you know, he took that. And then in Egypt, Horus took knowledge, right? And then in, you know, Christian, Catholic, you know, the devil took knowledge, you know, and even in my own story of the raven, he took knowledge, basically the fire. And Prometheus, he took it. And Quetzalcoatl had a thief that I don't remember. So yes, in every story, almost every story, there is the same story. The names just change, right? So Loki, he took the knowledge from, you know, the Norse. And I think what they're trying to say is that we can change, we can grow. We just needed a push in that direction. You know, that's kind of my theory. We're like, yeah, there is a very distinct story of somebody taking fire, knowledge, tools, or something from the gods and giving it to the people, and then being punished for it. But yeah. You know, it's kind of the same story everywhere, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
I think, you know, stories are such powerful tools. And, you know, like you said, there's some base story that exists. And then it's this long game of telephone as it just permeates throughout the world in time.
Yeah. And most people don't even notice it, though. Like, it's the same story. It's just different names, you know? But yeah, there was something that started it all. Something gave us this creative streak of understanding, you know?
Okay. Fascinating. Okay, so going back to Fire Raven Entertainment, what was your purpose for starting this company? Why did you feel this need in your soul to go out and create something like this?
You know, well, after 25 years of working in a steel mill, my body's done. And, you know, living in Portland for, you know, 35 years, I'm done with that, you know? And I just thought about it, you know, like I sold my house and I got enough money to move to Hawaii and I got some extra. And then I started thinking about like, well, what am I going to do when I get to Hawaii? You know, I gotta have something. And I've had some very good encouragement from like very top level flow artists. And so it kind of just gave me enough confidence to say, you know what? I can do this. You know, I can sell it. You know, you want a show? I'll give you a show. I got 6 different props I play with. I got day props, LED props, fire props. Like, you know, I can come in and like tell a few jokes and warm them up or just get right down to it. But my kind of, the bit I'm thinking of is kind of, you know, going in and tell some pretty good jokes and then like got a fire here and like get some. It's called magic paper, and it's like, oh, I caught my arm on fire, and then just take a stick off that and just,
Okay.
That's kind of the bit, So like a real comedic, but not, not
slapstick, but more
not clowns, and just jester. That's what I call myself. I'm a jester.
So I guess what would be the distinction
and
between...
I dress differently too.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would be the distinction between a clown and a jester for those unaware?
Clowns are more kind of in your face usually. Their outfits are more flashy. They just they're more about entertaining like a big crowd. The balloon animals and like oversized shoes, nose and stuff. That's something very visual that a lot of people can see. Whereas me, I'll have like my little rainbow hat and like a nice little outfit, but I'm up in your face. I'm entertaining you. I want you to laugh, and then once you laugh, I'm making them laugh.
Okay. So it's a more one-to-one experience as a one-to-many.
And also vocal. Not just doing flow arts, but like telling some jokes, connecting a story, kind of, I see a jester as kind of halfway between a really good stand-up comedian and a clown, because it's about talking, and dressing silly, but not clowny, yeah.
So when you go about designing your shows, what are some of the things that you think about as you're going through this process?
So what I do is, I just kind of like freeform flow a lot of the time. And I'll just like spin by myself a lot. And it's so the kind of general rule is if it feels good doing it, it looks good to everybody else, So I'll do something and then I'll be like, oh, that felt pretty cool. And then I'll drill it, drill it, and but you don't overdo it. You can drill something for an hour, and then I have like a handful of songs that I kind of always spin to like these 10 songs, and so I'm getting like really good at like knowing exactly when that music's going to change. So for me, it's like dancing to the music. I just have stuff in my arms. And I'm a really good dancer.
Yeah.
But then like you get that and you're like, that's good, and then you show somebody else. We're like, oh, what do you think of this? Because when you're spinning, you don't see it. You just feel what you're doing, and then you get somebody to second that and be like, oh, that does look good. And then you start thinking, where can I fit that in that song? Is there a section of song that's 30 seconds long to do that trick? And that's when I get really mathematical about it. Like, well, this move takes 12 seconds, so there's a little bridge in the song, But for me, it's a lot of choreography. Choreography. It's like dancing to specific songs, Like, I can't just go to a rave, and flow because just boom, boom,
right.
More like boom, 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 boom.
Sure.
That's a flow song, But,
so the process sounds like almost the exact same thing as what a dancer would do. They have ideas and motions and movements and patterns in their head, and then they chunk it to specific parts of the song strategically to kind of get a nice impact for the audience and the crowd.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. And so like after a while, you'll get to this point where you'll have like, something that you do that feels really good, and then something over here that looks really cool, but then like, how do you get this to that without just kind of dead air?
Yeah.
So then that forces your brain to be like, one more thing I can do. So you're like this, and then you realize you can go up like that, and then
sure.
over here. And to me, that's it. Like discovering new things and transitions. Like, and that's really, tricks are cool, right? A lot of people do the same tricks though, but the transitions from trick to trick is where
huge.
It is.
Yeah.
If you got to do some weird stuff to set up your next stunt, then you did not choreograph it right, I got most of my routine to just completely fluid.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you go about pacing your performance, how do you think about that? Because I know, like, if you look at a story arc, like a narrative story, you know, there are arcs to it. There's a beginning, a middle, and the end, and in each section, there's a small climax, usually with the biggest one at the last. Is that kind of the approach that you take to yours? What do you do?
Depends on the song. Some of the songs that I spin to peak in the middle, you know, and it'd be like just really slow, da, 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 da. And then it's, you know, it's like, I can do it, but, you know, and then it gets back to slow, but like, then I'll flourish it in that middle breakdown, and like, it doesn't always have to be a finale. There just has to be a moment where you do like some cool stuff for a while.
Yeah.
You know. And then I always try to come up with stuff. You know, I think I've come up with like a few moves that I've never seen anybody else do, and I get a lot of credit for making them, you know. And that's fun, you know, like if you can do like a body tracer where your arms back here and you just kind of bring the poi out right here.
Yeah.
So I got one arm here and I was like this, and then I'll take this arm and just like, and I'll walk down there, and I've never seen anybody do that. And everybody tells me it looks cool. So just inventing my own moves is really fun.
No, it's part of the creative journey. When you're trying to invent your own moves, what are some of the things that you like to do? How does that process work?
Well, I like to set up with something that I already have, but I'll kind of start towards the end of that, because then I'm like, well, what do I do next? And so that's when I get creative and like, well, try this, bam, hit my head. Nope, not doing the head, bam, hit the, you know, not doing the head, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, just adding onto the tail of it is fun, because you can't really throw something in the middle because you've already got it.
Sure.
Beginning and end, though, is really good.
Okay.
You know, but yeah, when I just find something new, and then sometimes I'll just start a different set. You know, I got one set that's just like crisp, nice wall plays, and then I got another set where I'm like dancing with them and doing a lot of stalls like that, you know, and more 3D poi, you know. So yeah, it just depends on what I come up with, you know. I came up with this little, I call it the infinite weave. Like, I'll do a three beat, you know, and then I'll just turn and walk around in a circle, just, you know.
Okay.
I've never seen anyone else do that.
And then, for those unfamiliar, what is a 3-beat?
Okay, so a 3-beat, let me grab my poem so Jesus.
Unfortunately, there's not a space, but verbally and with the
I
hands.
brought my yoga mat ones. So a 3-beat is when you're spinning like this, and you go 1, 2. So what happens is this rotates 1, 2, and the one you bring over rotates 1.
Okay.
So that's why it's a 3-beat. It's
Got
1, 2, 1. But it's really good for turning because you do the 2, and then you just do the 1.
It
So when you
leads.
see people go, you know, do a little, and it looks like a little pinwheel, you know, and it usually comes in at a 45 and then back that way. And it's like really good to turn, but I like to just do stuff with it.
So it's a
you
really
know?
good transition tool
Yeah,
to kind of...
it was kind of designed to turn. You know, that was
Okay.
like the thing. But I've found ways to turn like nobody else. I believe. You know, I'm trying to stay humble here, but like because I drilled my planes so hard forwards and back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's like one of my favorite things. Is like
The back is so hard.
This one will be backwards going left, and then the front's going forward.
It's so
right,
hard.
you know. Yeah, and like it is really hard, you know. But like one of my favorite things is staying in that negative space between the planes, because when I'm in that negative space, I can bend that plane anywhere I want to go. So I can go from behind to back, front and back, and then just turn my body. And then I'm instantly doing wheel planes.
Right.
And I'll turn my body this way, and I'm doing one forward, one back. And then I'm turning this way, I'm doing forward wheel. And I can, like, boom, 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 like this way, and then 90 degrees that way. And then that's one of my favorite things. I'll do the 4 corners, you know. And to bend those corners when you're just doing straight like this, 90 degrees.
To make sure I'm understanding clearly, the planes themselves, let's take poi for example, are all spinning, and from their perspective, everything stays the same. However, your body is rotating 90 degrees
That's
relative
a very
to the
good way
planet.
of looking at
Cool.
it. Yeah,
Got it.
yeah.
Okay, no, that's fascinating. I think it's really important to practice these things a lot, like how we were talking about at the beginning, just drilling these things over and over till it becomes muscle memory, and then you don't have to think about it anymore. Your body just does it.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
So taking a step back, in about, I don't know, let's say 2 or 3 years time, what do you hope to accomplish with Fire Raven Entertainment? What are your goals?
Well, by that time I'll be in Hawaii.
Okay.
Ideally I would maybe like lease a small little section of a strip mall and like have a basically a store.
Okay.
Because I have authorization and accounts with all the prop makers, in the world. And so like having those there on display will draw people's attention.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And then like I'll have like a video of like me or other people like spinning or pictures to draw their attention. And then I'm on them. I'm like, you want to see this, right? Yeah. I'll do your kid's birthday party. I don't care. Like I can teach you how to do this very fast. And I just then I turn into Bard, and then I just start talking to them.
Okay, so it's a mix of storefronts, physical goods on shelves for people to go see stuff.
They want to see, so that's why having a demonstration video is so important.
And then on a slight pivot from that, then actually hire out your services for performances.
Yes. And so what I really want to do is perform. But teaching also is like really interesting to me, because I have a very good way of explaining things. Like every job I've gone to, I'm always the guy that teaches new people,
Sure, yeah.
And I'm usually pretty sociable and easy to get along with. So then my teaching style is kind of like that too. It's pretty relaxed. I'm like, hey, this is how you do it. Don't worry if it hits you in the head. That just means your hand's too high. Put your hand in your pocket, Yeah, and I just love the flow community. It's so inclusive, It was like the first place I felt okay to be openly gay or, dress like I want in my sexy outfits to go spin, be comfortable with telling people my name's Elizabeth, and it's like a place that's very safe. And most of the people there are very genuine, That's my community now. That's my tribe.
I think that's huge. I also think the flow community. So let me take a step back. For one of the questions that we had previous, so the intersection of mental illness, mental health awareness, and the flow arts community, like we said from the beginning, like there's a disproportionate amount of people in the flow arts community that have a higher than baseline average mental illness. And I think it's for two reasons. One, I think it is such a compassionate and empathetic community. It attracts those people who are having troubles in their lives. There's a place for them to go there and feel safe and feel welcome.
Absolutely.
So, naturally more people will gravitate towards that. And I guess the second point, which is really the same point, is there's a lot of empathy there so that once they get into that environment, they have, more or less a family there that they can then, grow and hopefully heal from the wounds that they've suffered in the past.
Yeah. I like, when I first started flowing, I was like just dressing like normal and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And then I see people wearing like cool outfits and stuff, and like not afraid or ashamed to just like wear something skimpy and sexy and just be themselves. And then just encourage other people to be themselves and accept them into the community however they are, and like, that's what I experienced, and that's what I want to continue. Is like, look, I dress silly now, I'm a fire performer, but like, you can come in and dress silly too,
Absolutely.
And everybody will love you,
Yeah,
it's so inclusive and accepting of you expressing yourself through art or style, and it's just.
What was that experience like for you early on? Because, I imagine it could have been quite scary, presenting yourself to the world for the first time like that is generally not accepted by the public.
Yes.
What was that like for you?
Well, so for me, the second Kindle is when I came out as Elizabeth and started wearing like cool outfits. And the people that I'd already worked with at the first one were like, okay, cool, Liz.
Yeah.
And just like people doing that, like, I was like, oh, okay, like I can just be me, and it was exhilarating. It was just like finally peace. I can calm down. I don't have to stress that, like, they're going to think bad about me. It didn't cause depression. It didn't cause anxiety. It was actually just a mental relief to be accepted as I was. And like, you build up this paranoia of like, oh my God, I'm stupid and everyone's going to hate me, and then you get there and everyone's like, oh, that's cool. And then, it's like it kind of like resets your serotonin for a while, You're just like, oh man, being accepted and just being who I am, and then seeing other people in silly outfits, that makes you have fun, you guys have to be silly together. And it was a huge, huge thing for my mental health, because I was literally at the bottom of the downward spiral, and I was going to give up, because I started trying poi, and I started just getting really close to the edge of that downward spiral again. And just a couple people were like, no, come back. I like watching you spin poi. And I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. You're like the best guy in the world. He's like, no, like watching you spin. I'm like, sure, whatever. He's like, you did 3 things I've never done. And I was like, and it made me think, they're like, it's not like this stereotype of like, you have to do these things, It's, we want you to do something so we can see something cool. And that's just really the mental boost you need, That's what kicks you out of the rut. And
I think going back to like that moment of like putting yourself out in the world and the acceptance, it's always so interesting. I have a friend who is now openly gay. He's a single child. And when he first came out to his parents, I think the age of 18, 19, his parents were like, oh yeah, we've known for years. You're an only child and my makeup's been going missing and I know it's not your father. And they made it, as big or small as a moment as they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But it's so funny because from the inside, it can be built up to be this giant, overwhelming experience.
Oh,
because
yeah.
for you, it is a life-changing event and you don't know how others perceive you. But from the outside, for those that love you truly, they're just like, yeah, okay, cool. And then they treat you the same going forward.
Yeah.
Nothing has really changed. You just get to be this person out in the world openly now.
Yeah. So imagine it this way. Like, you're on one side of a giant cave, right? And happiness is through the tunnel on the other side.
Sure.
But you have this giant boulder blocking the entrance, and that's your self-doubt, your self-loathing, your apathy, your scared, to do it. And then you meet a couple people that are, playing with float toys, and they'll just help you push that boulder out of the way so you can go down the tunnel and be you.
I think that little bit of encouragement is huge because, like, not putting a technical term on it, but I've always called it activation energy. Like the amount of energy to push you into motion to take action. I think sometimes like people just get stuck in a rut and they can't really make too much progress themselves without some external factor just really giving them that nudge to kind of get going. So it's nice to have a community that offers that so willingly and openly.
Yeah, going back to you talking about your friend and his experience, I recently just came out as pansexual like a year and a half ago,
okay.
And then came out as Elizabeth like 8 months ago, So it was like a big thing for me. And like when I came out, like, a couple of my gay friends like, yeah, we knew. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, we knew. And but like a bunch of my straight friends were also like, that explains a lot. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, you don't like bugs, you don't like dirt, you don't like cars, I'm like, I like My Little Pony. Does that count?
For those unaware, what is pansexual?
So pansexual is everything. Like, think of a frying pan, You throw a hot dog in there, you throw a taco in there, and then you throw in just like a pile of fun stuff.
All right, just a little bit of everything.
Yeah, so it's bisexual is like women or men, and then like I'm actually a two-spirit. It's like it's a native thing. It's like I'm a man, but I have like this huge feminine streak that I love to embrace and enjoy, and actually like it more than Chris. So it's like I'm a two-spirit, and like I fall in this middle category with androgynous and non-binary and trans people. That's all in the middle.
Okay.
And so a lot of times bi people are only guys or only girls.
Okay.
But pansexual means like all that stuff in the middle is also really good.
Okay, I see. So
like if somebody was interested in me, they would have to be pansexual because I'm like little girl, little guy, like trans people, they fall into the pansexual quality because it's just the middle. It's the middle ground.
Okay.
David Bowie. Yeah, he was, but he was very androgynous.
Oh, very much so.
Yeah,
yes.
so he falls in that middle category.
Okay.
One of the best actresses in the world, Tilda Swinton, like she is very androgynous. She falls in that middle category.
Yeah.
And I think the middle category is where the real fun is.
I think there's the most variety there.
But yeah, to clarify, pansexual means that you are attracted to anybody. What they got going on down here doesn't even matter. You just like them.
Sure. You like them for them.
Yeah, yes, exactly. And to me, pansexual is the most honest of all the sexualities.
Tell me more.
Because you can't hide it. Like if you're attracted to somebody in the neutral gender, they know automatically that it's a real attraction.
Because it's them, the spirit them, the body doesn't matter.
It's not just, you chasing a hot girl or like a really buff, studly guy. You see that person for who they really are.
Interesting.
And to me, like, I was at the club dancing with this trans girl, and she was 6'4", right? Like, I've always liked short girls, that I like dancing with her, and I'm like, oh, just hold.
They're towering above you.
Yeah, and that's my jam, because those people in the middle are the bravest people in the world. You know how hard that is? Like, I've had people try to kill me just for being alive because I'm gay,
Yeah, it's really challenging. Like, to date this podcast, the Pride Parade was last weekend in Seattle. I went to it, and it was
I saw the pictures.
Thank you, yeah. It was the very first time I went to that, and it was such an amazing experience.
The coolest people you ever met, huh?
Yeah, so friendly. The outpouring of love and acceptance was just amazing.
That to me, that's that middle section. They're like the purest people.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So now that, let's see, to date this podcast again, you presented this you out into the world at the second Kindle. So you've been, I guess, Elizabeth out in the world for about a year or so now.
Yeah. It was a little bit before the first Kindle. I realized that I need to embrace the real me.
Yeah,
and like stop being a homophobic, bisexual person.
So how is this, now that you're open to the world, how has this experience changed for you? What is daily life like now? How do you feel mentally?
Mentally, I feel less stressful. A little stress in a different way, but like a lot less stressful. The self-loathing is gone.
That's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I don't hate myself anymore. Like I'm born in the 70s, right? So growing up in the 70s and the 80s was the height of toxic masculinity.
Yep.
And like movies and famous comedians, like even Eddie Murphy live on stage, it's like faggot this, gay that, queer, homo,
which is crazy.
And school and like everywhere. And it was just widely accepted. And, skinheads were going around gay bashing people with bats and stuff. And it was just like, not gay. Man. And then I hated myself because of who I was, and for my whole life I was just so angry because like I had these feelings and it was like, that's not right, and then coming out as Elizabeth finally was like, all that was kind of gone,
I was born in 93 for context. So going back to the 70s and 80s, which
I was 15 by then.
So going back to the 70s and 80s, which is before my time, I never understood like the such toxic vitriol against, gay people and the existence of hair metal and David Bowie and all the other
That's
stuff.
because baby boomers are the generation after World War II. And so everything was very masculine and very feminine. And that was back when housewives cooked cookies and when you got home, dinner was ready,
Right. But there was like David Bowie and hair metal and, rock stars dressed up in makeup and drag, and that was at the forefront of pop culture.
But see, that was just flashy pop.
I see.
That
Okay.
wasn't actually gay culture or anything like that. That was just flashy pop rock to get attention.
Got it.
Freddie Mercury was a real advocate for
Right.
gay, and there were some for sure, and there were some that were allies, but like, yeah, there was not like a big thing until the late 80s, and that's like when the LGBT community started.
Okay.
And then they added the T's and the Q's and everything. But like when I was a kid, it was just LGBT, and that they really started that in the late 80s because it was wild, People were getting killed for being gay, like
The persecution was
and
high.
it was acceptable, like so yeah, it was like really different back then. And finally seeing bands that like didn't use those words anymore, and comedians stopped using those words. Fine, like in the 90s is when toxic masculinity was starting to get reined in,
Yeah.
And like I remember when I was a kid in the early 80s, there was commercials, like the very first commercials about a woman and her boss like coming up and touching her shoulders and stuff. That was like when sexual harassment even became a thing. So that's how bad toxic masculinity was, because these baby boomers, my dad's a baby boomer. We're not knocking all baby boomers. We're just talking about the general thing that you're asking. So baby boomers are the descendants of, Army, Navy, World War II people.
Greatest generation, yeah.
Yeah, so they like grew up that way, and a lot of people back then were just heavily religious, and at that time it was like Catholic and Christian and Jews, and like it was just got to this point where like everybody hated gays because they didn't belong to any group at all, but they were their own group, and it was against God, it was unmanly because you're working in the army, it was just like wrong stereotypes.
Sure. Yeah.
Wrong stereotypes. And so, yeah, most people just stayed in the closet, and the really brave people that came out had to deal with like
A lot
those
of
things,
stuff. Yeah.
And yeah, somebody found out I was gay when I was 15 and tried to kill me, like crazy, just for being alive, So yeah, that's why a lot of people hid, and that's when people started coming out in the 90s, because it was that generation before them that, not purposely, but like very adamantly, like just made this drive of gay is bad,
Okay. It's fascinating, and not in a good way, the generational wounds that get passed down. And, things get better with each generation going forward, but you could just see the damage in its wake.
Absolutely. I'll give you a perfect example. So my great grandpa is from Prague. He came over here, he bought a mail order wife from Prague, It's still a thing, actually,
Sure.
believe it or not. And my grandpa was born in a small town in South Dakota, so my great grandpa being Czech, Europeans drink a lot like fish.
Yep.
And they come into America, being a heavy Catholic, being a heavy drinker, 19, 20, hard farm life, And then my grandpa was born and like, you're drunk, life's hard, you're Catholic, you beat your kids. And like, baby boomers' parents all got beat. It was just so common back then. And then, those kids, like my grandpa's age, born in 26. And, religion was a thing that like kind of dwindled down like towards the 80s, but it was very prominent until then, It's like, So my grandpa was Catholic. My grandpa didn't really drink so much, but he had so much CPTSD from getting him beat all the time from his dad, And then my dad got spanked, and stuff. But then, like, my dad would always say, well, I got it, not as bad as grandpa, And then I got fucking beat all the time and other things that fucked me up, sexual assaults and stuff. And, like, yeah, I got fucking beat a lot as a kid, but you know what? I never hit my kid ever. My son is 25 years old. He's an airplane pilot.
Oh,
he's certified
25.
Airplane mechanic.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I never beat him.
Yeah.
I broke that cycle.
Yes.
And look what he became.
Yes.
Without getting beat.
Yes.
And I got beat less than my dad, but yes, what you said earlier, tried to segue, is that it's progressing.
Yeah, like
it's
things don't become perfect, but they become incrementally better.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, step by step, we'll fix each other.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just so proud I broke the cycle. It's not happening,
I mean, it's always interesting because sometimes generational wounds, they manifest themselves again, and it's very hard to break the cycle because that's just the world and the environment that you've known. So congratulations for breaking the cycle. That's not easy. So good on you.
I'm going to blow your mind right here.
Please.
So the reason why old traumatic memories linger so hard is you have a cluster of neurons at the top of your heart, a literal heart brain, right? And what happens is, you get beat or molested or something or bad, and your heart brain remembers that as an emotional scar, right? And that's why you hold on to it. But your heart brain and your real brain are connected. So when you see or feel something, it tells your heart brain, oh, this is happening again. And that's where you get this, and that's why the flashbacks are so real, because your heart literally remembers emotional scars. And if you don't believe me, you can Google this. This guy's been studying this for the 90s, this doctor. And he was just, like, their brains, heart's got a brain, heart's got a brain. And then just like within the last few years, we finally developed the imaging technology to prove him right. There is literally a cluster of neurons at the top of your heart. It has a brain. It has its own electrical signals and synapses and everything. And it does send signals to the brain. And that's why emotional wounds hurt the most. And it's, like, you can rob me, you can trick me, that's fine. But, like, emotionally scar me.
Yeah, that one is, that's tough.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if your viewers are going to believe me, but it's real.
I'm
real
definitely going to
stuff.
go research it later. Yeah, that's news to me, but that sounds fascinating if true.
I had to educate my counselor at therapy.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, no, after this podcast, I will definitely go do some research. So a closing tradition that we have on the show is the previous guest leaves a question for the current guest, not knowing who the current guest will be.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So the question left for you, what do you think is the hardest but most rewarding aspect about being a creative?
The hardest but most rewarding? Helping someone get to their flow state.
Tell me more.
This last Kindle, I met a couple of people, their names were Alex and Alex. It was just funny because my son's name is Alex and my friend Alex was spinning for us. It was like, Alex, but, this kid, it was his first fire festival. He'd never spun fire. He had like some LED pods and stuff. And I was on fire watch, volunteering and stuff. And so I couldn't spin or whatever. And so I just took my poi and threw him at him. Like, go spin him. And he was like, what? And I'm like, go spin him. He was like, okay. And then he sat there for like 10 minutes and I let him.
Sure.
I let him process it and everything. I'm like, hey, you didn't go spin those yet. And he's like, all right. So he got up and he spun my poi. And that was the first time he spun fire ever. And he nailed it. And he came back. He's like, oh my God, I feel so good. That's what it's all about. Yeah. That's what it's all about. And then every time I see him, I gave him my double staffs next time I saw him. He's like, I don't know what to do with these. I'm like, just go move around.
matter. Go ahead. Go
And so
nuts.
he goes out there and he killed it. He's like, doing all kinds of things I can't do. And then the next time I saw him, I gave him my long staff. And I'm like, here, go spin this. And it's like, I don't know what to do. I'm like, go spin it, and he kills it. For me, out of all the things I've done, helping my friend Alex find his flow state and helping him realize that he can spin any prop. You don't have to be stuck with one prop. Blew his mind, made my heart explode. Just made me feel so good to help someone achieve their best potential.
I think teaching is one of the highest impact things that you can have on someone's life.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
So that's amazing. I'm really glad that you had that experience. That's wonderful.
You can bring up the movie Soul.
Soul. Oh, I haven't seen Soul.
Oh, you haven't seen Soul?
No, tell me about the movie Soul.
God. It's kind of almost exactly this whole conversation we've been having this whole time. A gentleman passes on. It's a Disney cartoon, so it's not graphic.
Yeah, it's the jazz one.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen it, but I'm familiar.
He passes on, and there's all these like new souls that have to find their purpose right before they can drop down to the earth. And so he ends up like finding this one that's been there since the beginning that could not figure out their purpose, and basically she possesses him and they escape back to Earth and stuff. But while he's in the spirit world, he meets all these people that are just kind of like doing their own thing, and what it is they're in flow state. Like their real body, was in the real world. And it was a guy, with the signs for the store, and he was just killing it, lots of spinning and stuff. But his consciousness was in the spirit world because then you're in flow state. And all these other people were doing really cool things. When he does his jazz and he gets lost on the piano, he's not even paying attention to what he's doing. He's in the flow state in the spirit world. So once you get to this point where you're like just in it, and you're not really thinking about it, you're just doing it. That's flow state.
Beautiful.
That's this big area right here where everybody's spirit combines and shines. You get to see them doing cool stuff. They get to see you doing cool stuff. Nobody interrupts anybody. Everyone's just having fun in the flow state.
Cool. Oh, that sounds amazing. Yes, I would love to check out that movie. It's on my list. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Tonight.
Okay. No, that sounds great.
It's amazing. And I grew up with old Disney and stuff, so like all these new ones were like dumb, like Cars and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And like she made me watch Soul, and I'm like, I had to post something on Facebook like, epic. Thank you, Disney. It's been a long time since you've done something epic.
Yeah. Okay. I will definitely have to check that out. Before we break, where can people find you, and where would you like to draw people's attention to?
So I'm going to hire someone to run my websites because I'm not tech savvy. But if you want a show or lessons or products, you can email me at fireravenentertainment@yahoo.com. I have a bunch of pictures if you want to see what I do have for available. I have Instagram at fireraven.com. I also like to display like my props and my tools on the Instagram so people can see like I can do a lot of stuff. I can make, anything you want. I'm also on Facebook at Fire Raven Entertainment, And so like, yeah, those are my things. I have WhatsApp is Fire Raven Entertainment, on business. And so, yeah, like I have my name everywhere and I'm trying to build these things. Like, I'm trying to get my Instagram to like just products and videos.
Okay.
And my Facebook is like discussions, like, posts of like fun things I did. And then the email fireravenentertainment@yahoo.com is like, if you want questions or, you want a show or something, that's where it is. And I have my WhatsApp number attached to almost everything. So call me, like text me, like, what do you need? You need a big show? I can do that. You need like a really big show? I'll bring my brother. If you want like a real little small thing, I'll bring the really cool props that are like up close, And so like whatever somebody needs, I can do. Yeah, you want me to tell some jokes? Awesome. I write jokes. I have a book full of killer jokes, and some of them are, a little dirty, but a lot of them are clean for kids too, But yeah, writing jokes is also kind of a therapy for me, But yeah, I like to do jokes. I really like to perform. I really like to teach people. Like, if you want to learn how to spin a prop, tell me. So what prop is it? I got it, If you want to see some of the coolest, more unique spinning than you haven't seen before, that's me. I don't do the basic stuff. I do a lot of 3D poi, we call it, because you're not just using
Right.
these planes. I'm just kind of all over.
All right, cool.
Yeah, that's kind of like my jam is the 3D poi. I have almost every single type of prop to sell: juggling clubs, juggling balls, levy wands, pouches, and stuff. And so, yeah, thank you for asking. But Instagram, if you want to see cool stuff and follow, I try to post when I do stuff with other people in the community. Like, I've helped a lot of people just going to do their show, or I also will provide prop management and fire safety if you need that for a show, So yeah, just getting back in touch with the community and helping muggles come in. They're called muggles because they don't know what the spinning is.
Of course.
But yeah, I really just want people to join the flow community. I really want to perform and entertain is my main thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want lessons or to do a show, email or Facebook.
That sounds great. I will take all of those links and I'll put them in the show notes down below.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming out here. It's been a wonderful discussion.
Oh,
I've learned
it was
so
very
much.
good to see you again. I'm glad we reconnected.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.